I hope Alice is gonna join us soon because I already pressed the button and we are live. So we are kind of having like an easy way into the session now. I mean, like a from casual talk. I believe that's the best. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, in terms of topic, we are continuing the same one, breaking the rules or interrupting the rules. And I was thinking right now, before jumping to the session, I was thinking, well, I tried to define what rules are. And in my mind, there is almost like some kind of gradation. I mean, I could call kind of rules something which we do habitually, like a habitually. It's almost like a habit. Something which we um, accepted at some point, and maybe we established it because we found them useful, but over the time we forgot that that thing does even exist. I mean, that's a good thing about habits, and that's a bad thing. And in some ways, we kind of lost awareness that this is just something which we artificially, created. And maybe it's time to update it. Maybe it's not serving the purpose, but we are still doing it automatically. And that's what I believe those rules are. And it's easier to see it in a personal level, but there are the same stuff on a level of society, like a social level, kind of habits, kind of the way we believe it's supposed to be. And I think it's nice. The same way, it's nice to break your own habits and see maybe they are outdated and maybe there are some better ones. And the same way related to kind of higher level society. But with the higher level, I see the problem is that it kind of impacting other people. So when you try to break them, you could feel kind of you could have a literally resistance from people around you. I mean, does it make sense what I'm just
Hmm.
trying to talk out loud and see what that topic is really all about.
Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. I have to be honest, I struggled this week with really trying to it's so fascinating because when I went to go focus on what are some of my habits, what I really struggled because I think that really says so much about how ingrained these rules and are inside of me. Um, and it's interesting that you brought this up, Alex, in this idea of kind of the personal habits and the rules that we've created, and then societal rules. And what I kept, ultimately getting drawn to was more of society. Um, I guess maybe because of everything that's going on, that's kind of been my lens, more external.
Yeah,
Um, but I did struggle, and interestingly enough, it wasn't until this morning, and it really started last night, that I started recognizing some of, I would say, more of the societal rules that I've embraced. That I'm feeling a lot of friction, a lot of tension, even anxiety as I approach it in a different way. But first, for me, was to recognize it, and that
yeah.
was really challenging. It was really challenging.
Can we specify? Because yeah, I could guess, but it would be nice to if you bring if you kind of drop on us some specifics so we could chew on it.
Yeah, I was making it a little mysterious. I was going to,
What
I
he's
guess,
talking about. Okay.
what am I talking about? So in some ways these are a little intertwined, but there's two pieces. The first piece is that um, I have had to play a brand new role in my life particularly because of COVID. And, as I always say, I live in a modern family. There's two dads and two sons. And that in and of itself kind of breaks some of the rules and the barriers that have been set up by society. But what's interesting is that both of us, in terms of parents, had our careers, we've had, our focus on our work along with being parents. What happened with COVID is that the majority of my work dissolved. And outside of coaching, which fortunately I'm able to do online, the majority of my work has disappeared. And it really has created, all of a sudden, after 30 years really of working and following my career, boom, it's very different, and everything has gone away again except for coaching. And so it is this whole idea about identity. And then I ratchet up identity as a man who, the idea of having a career and bringing in the income. There's two of us, and now there's only one who's primarily doing this. And so I've had to adjust in what I see society's rules, that I should be doing X, Y, and Z. I should be out there pounding the pavement, and I can't. The work that I do I can't do that. That's the one big thing. And so I'm struggling with this identity. The second one, which has been fascinating, is not only as a parent, because I'm actually serving two roles. I'm serving a role as both father and mother. To both of our children. And I do that very well. It's who I am. I'm able to move in those spaces. But again, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a father? And what does it mean to be a mother? What has society said? What labels and what rules have been set around those identities as a mother and a father? And here I am saying, I'm having to move in between, but I'm still following the rules. And what was defined as a father and mother. And finally, the last thing is that because our schools are now online, there is now the emphasis of there's a lot of pressure on the kids, and to be on time. And here we're dealing with technology, the internet, everything. And what has come out of this is my own old belief systems around how we have to engage in school. Right? To be the good student, to show up on time, to be engaged. These kids are in a brand new environment. But what I realize and experience, I have so much anxiety because I see and feel how much I've been following these rules, the rules about what it is to be a student. Even after all these years, I still am bound by these rules, so I put a lot out there, but they're all kind of intertwined together. And again, that tension, I have to say, that tension that I'm feeling is so palpable. And I haven't quite gone into the full action mode, as we'll be talking about. But for me, it was creating that deep awareness.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, first of all. It's a lot. And I'm just curious about tension. When you mentioned in the last kind of few seconds of your talk, is that about tension. What like, if you would spot one thing which creates the most tension? Let's jump into the Pareto principle. And what would be one thing which creates the most tension? By the way, hello.
Hello, Alice.
Hello.
I was checking on you, and you are not there, and I hope I caught you quite in time.
I know I had tech issues.
It's okay. It's good. Tech issues is better than have like no issues at all. Yeah. So I was asking right now. John shared with us lots of interesting points regarding to his current situation and how it's related to our topic of breaking rules and all those nuances. And my question to John was that what is the one thing which contributes the most in the tension and in anxiety which you experiencing?
I mean, of course, it's right now. It's fascinating. It's more of the education thing that's coming up for me around the boys, and it's all my own stuff. But what's fascinating is I literally can feel it in my body. That anxiety It is amazing. In fact, yesterday, when the first class occurred, I was with my foster son and I was listening to the teacher, and it was a history class. And I will tell you, it was as if I was sitting there in 6th grade listening to a teacher, and that anxiety of having to pay attention and to listen to every word. And you know, he was just telling them what they should be expecting and maneuvering them through everything. And I was literally transported back to being a young boy again, and really in that moment of following these rules. These rules don't apply very much anymore. This type of engagement that they're in, it doesn't apply. Everything has changed. And I also know that they're trying to manage this, but I just share with you, like, literally the physical tension that occurred as I was listening. And I literally had to walk out. I didn't want to disrupt my son, but I had to walk away, and it started over this morning as soon as we had to get online. So that it's fascinating how deep and wide. That's why I said at the beginning, these are really things that for me have been programmed deeply for many years.
Well, we lived in a different world, and to be honest, I came from kind of trainers and learning and development kind of education environment, and because I was educated as a online kind of trainer and online program developer and so on, I can tell you that the schools right now in a very troubled kind of situation, because one thing is to engage people who are coming into certain place and they're in the classroom, and all physical environment kind of contributes into that classroom delivery type of teaching. As soon as you're online, the schools are supposed to jump into the completely different type of teaching. I mean, and I don't know exactly what's going on, because right now I don't have kind of children around, but I believe that I would guess, you could tell me if I'm wrong, probably schools are trying to, I would say, imitate the real classroom or real type of teaching, even though it is online, right? Is it something like this?
Yes.
And this is wrong. I mean, what I mean by wrong is that online people are learning, they are not able and not will be able to learn the same way as you are physically coming into the real classroom. So what school's supposed to do is to give them pre-recorded stuff and do not deliver content in a as if it's a live type of environment. I mean, they're supposed to give them information in a pre-recorded or read by yourself or whatever form, and then have a live sessions much shorter in a type of discussion of what they learned. I mean, it's not, it's just a wrong to try to deliver kind of material over online, you know, assuming that it will be the same effect as people are literally in the classroom. It's just not gonna work. I mean, it's already proven, and all psychologists already know that. But I believe the classrooms and schools are probably, you know, didn't kind of catch up with the whole online learning type of environment. And so they schools probably they didn't have time. They're supposed to do some tiny, you know, bites, pieces, content information. Students supposed to digest it in their own way. It's supposed to be a certain deadline when they kind of able to watch that or read it on, and then live session much shorter. It's all about discussion. They call it reflection, because that's the best way you retain information and learn is when you start discussing it and reflect on it. But try to deliver people online, it's just this is really not the right way to do it. And I believe right now probably children are and their parents are in serious troubles.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll add so that everybody can, I don't want to take all the time, but it's very fascinating because the other level of this is just in terms of what we've been dealing with COVID and everything. I read a fascinating article. I mean, not only are we dealing with, when they're in the classroom, teachers are able to manage different types of learners, right? So when you're in the classroom, and oftentimes they have supports, so you've got that ability to manage different types of learners and students who are at different levels in the classroom. The other thing is, which is so difficult, and not to put this on teachers or schools, but I read an article about how many people, children who've lost family members, children who've lost, and have been in, not just from COVID, but just people who may have died during the summer. And in this challenge that the kids are bringing in a lot of emotion. There's a lot of managing there. And I think in some ways, when I talk about the education side, we don't want to go there. And they're talking about how counselors are really overwhelmed now by the fact that they're having to also figure out how to manage these emotional pieces. And I think for me, it's knowing all of this is also creating that anxiety, because to your point, the teaching is off, but how fascinating I've taken on, that tension. I've taken on that anxiety for the kids, because frankly, they were okay. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but it's been fascinating. But even adding those concepts of how are people dealing with grief and dealing, children really who are dealing with all of these huge changes. So anyway, so thank you for sharing that, because I appreciate also kind of your perspective on that learning process, and that also helps me understand, and kind of relax a little bit more in terms of this is what we're going to have to contend with. So
everything will adjust, because the old schools kind of and all that universities, and they are kind of delivering content, and right now the modern world content is accessible. Right now the whole learning is supposed to be already in a totally different kind of level, and so far I believe the institutions are not keeping up with the fast changes, and they still trying to deliver content, which is kind of Anyway, guys, sorry, we just jumped into we are talking by ourselves with John and girls. Please take over and please contribute into the breaking the rule part, because in the beginning of our talk I come up with the kind of gradation in my head that when it comes to rules, I was thinking about personal rules, which is practically habits, and also society rules, which kind of habits of society. And so that's where we are right now. How we could start breaking it in terms of getting ourselves free, and how we could start breaking it and making society better, and what would be the process. Please.
I think this is the moment that we cannot think about society, because many things are going on. For example, in my country, we don't have so many, even the television still put numbers out, but all these things are not true. And we are proof of that because some politicians spoke out, and either many virologists, epidemiologists, they say, here is no longer dangerous because we are changed from the epidemic to endemic. And endemic means when the virus and human being are starting to be connected and live together without danger for the human lives.
Really?
Yes. But we still have the old rules. And there are people so traumatized that they are really hardly understanding that things can be easier, and they are so fearful that creating a new normality is very different. They cannot imagine to live without masks, they cannot imagine to live without danger. They cannot imagine that things are much easier. So we cannot do anything about that. This is a process that is individual. Society, I don't think that is capable now, especially our own politician in Italy. I cannot tell you what I think because could be very good, and really not politically correct. I detest to be politically correct. I am very incorrect politically, and just to tell that the only thing I thought was how can I be a person that can help and contribute despite of what's going on. This is my way of breaking rules and even my habit, because I was thinking in many ways on how can I organize my business, how can I add value in very different way with the current situation. And there are a lot of things are happening. One of the things that I was chosen as a United Nations ambassador for creativity and innovation, and I say that's something I can contribute, and was completely breaking my rule because I have no admiration or appreciation for any of the global institution, especially World Health Organization. It's better that none of them meet me in the room, in the street. And but I say, what could be in some of this situation and being of help. And so I was with my gypsy to be creative and innovative. And I said, wow, it sounds really different just wearing completely different that I usually do, and make me feel a different person. Because I think that whenever we choose even to wear and what wear differently, and what put in our own body and say, oh, how this is look like to me, it make you feel in a different position, even internally.
Yeah,
I never
believe.
use all these rings, for example, and I say, how this is look like to me. And there is a somatic or bodily response, use the terms that you want, but make me feel much more positive in wearing these clothes, much more of help, and ironically, more myself.
Interesting.
So
Nice.
you can just use the simplest tool to change the rules. I mean, even you, John, about the schools, I think that I agree with Alex, because I am in WBEX now, is the 6th year, and we learn through these topics. We record the session, we have transcript, and then we make implementation mastery session, and there is a facilitator, and we learn all together, and it's very powerful. And I think that just think about what works more, and take this process as with curiosity, enjoy the process. So having the feeling that you are exploring, and it's an internal exploration too, because you may found that you never thought you were so creative, that you can create content and you can help in so very impactful and effective way people.
Okay. Thank you, Irina. Alice, what do you think about the whole breaking the rules topic?
Well, from what I heard from John and from what I heard from Irene, I was thinking about it this morning and what exactly did that mean to me? And we had talked about awareness. Once we are aware of something, then we can take action. So usually I get my best insight when I'm writing. So I started writing. And I realized I have been aware of a lot of things that have changed during this time, but that awareness was not enough to make me change back. I was aware that there's some things I've always done in my life. When I get up, if I go to work or if I didn't, if I stayed at home, I always get dressed. I always put on earrings. I always put on lipstick. That's for my great aunt when I was little. You know, we used to do that. She said, a lady should always put lipstick on and earring. So I've always done that. But I've noticed during this time that I would put on the earrings, but I put on very small earrings. Because sometimes I like all different kinds, lots of earrings. I would put on very small earrings. And I would not put on lipstick, sometimes for days. And when we start wearing the mask, I really didn't put on lipstick. I was really aware of that. But what made me start, when we start talking about breaking the rules, what made me start thinking and pull out a few more earrings and pull out some lipstick was what I had to ask myself, what was my intention behind not doing that? Even though I was aware, but what was my intention? And my intention, without me knowing it, had kind of slipped into what has become normal. You know, it's normal now to wear pajamas all day. It's normal now to not put on makeup, to not put on lipstick, to not put, who's gonna see me? It's normal. So I think when I was thinking about that, it was when I became aware of my intention, not aware of my action, that I could make a decision. Okay, this is my intention. So when John was talking about that he was, the rules and how they're doing in class, and from the little I know about John, I know he's one to say, no, you can't do it this way. He's one to revolt. But sometimes that's we are aware of what's going on and we want to change it, but the rules is so big that we don't ask ourselves what's the intention behind this. We just go along with that rule. And then I had to ask myself, okay, why do you go along with that rule? And we go along with it. Some of the rules that I go along with is simply because it's not pretty, but because it's easier. It's easier not to put the energy into it. It's easier sometimes not making a choice, not standing up for what you believe. It's easier because when you stand up for what you believe, you have to take responsibility. And it's easier not to take responsibility. Because sometimes it looks so big that it's like, I just go along with it. And I think that's what keeps us sometimes, that's what keeps me sometimes from doing, not knowing the intention behind why I'm not doing something. So this week, my little experiment I did, this week, I used the mouse with my left hand. I didn't use it with my right hand. And that's what kind of got me in this mind frame, because I realized I can use my left hand, but it's much easier to use my right hand. So what is my intention behind that action? It's simpler, it's faster. When I couldn't get online this morning, I switched the mouse over to my right hand and I started working. But for me, it's asking myself, what is the intention behind me going along with this rule and not agreeing with going with what I believe? And I made a pact with myself that I will be intentional and I will be mindful of my intention. I will be aware of my intention, and I will change it once I'm aware and be mindful of that intention. So I know that's probably a lot, but when you guys were talking, that reminded me of it when John was saying, when he go into the classroom, and when Irene was saying how changing clothes, and I thought, just putting on my lipstick, it makes me feel in a different way. Just putting on earrings, just putting on clothes, something different, just dressing. I haven't dressed up, even semi-dressed, and just a t-shirt and some jogging pants. And it does something to your mind. So if something that simple does something to your mind, just imagine when we are going along with all these regulations that we don't agree with, how it can affect our body. Like John was saying, how he could feel it in his body. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Very powerful. You moved into the totally different level of conversation, Alice. I like it. And I'm following you, and you call it intention. It's like almost like a searching, not just to almost like a cultivating ability, not just to notice. That's what we call aware, like a first level of awareness, but also, as you said, being aware of intention behind it, meaning aware of meaning behind it. Like if you don't put a lipstick, what is the meaning of that? And I believe one of the ways how we could reach the meaning for you, I mean, because it could mean different things for different people, but for you, what is the real meaning? It's going to be a difference how you feel. It could be very subtle.
Yeah.
How you feel when you put lipstick and how you feel when you don't. And if you bring awareness, not just to notice, okay, I didn't put my lipstick, but awareness of notice how differently I feel by doing that, not putting lipsticks.
Yeah.
And that already brings you different level of awareness. You become aware of intention or meaning doing it. That's really good. Is it correct? Is it more or less what? Is it correct the way I understood you? Right?
Yes, I mean, when I put the lipstick on, to me, my face is happy. And I never put it on without remembering my great auntie.
You see?
It also brings that. So it makes me happy. you know.
Yeah.
It makes me happy, you know. That's a part of her that I remember, you know. And if sometimes people have asked me, oh, why you have on lipstick in the house? You're not going anywhere. And I always say, my auntie told me a woman should always put a little lipstick and some earrings. So
Yeah.
it's just, you know, it does something for my spirit, you know, and that's a simple thing, but it could be something much bigger for other people. But it does, and the intention behind it, you know, behind me not putting it on, I couldn't, why am I doing this? And it was simply because I had fell into that rule of what was normal, not for staying in the house. Oh, it's a pandemic outside. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. So I subconsciously created me some new rules. But okay, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And I could feel the difference between, you know, when I did it and when I didn't. When I changed earrings and when I did something so simple, you know.
Yeah. But it does require a different level of awareness. One thing is awareness of, like, one thing is to notice what you do. Another thing is to notice how you feel when you do it.
Exactly.
And that feeling will tell you, you know, the intention. I mean, sometimes we just, the feeling is, you cannot lie, you know, we always feel very, maybe slightly, but different, you know, about different things. And about all actions, they are all colored with the tiny, tiny nuances of feelings. And if we are able to bring awareness to that level, well, we have a clue what really to do and what really not. Guys, we're supposed to wrap up quite soon. So final conclusion, John. And,
well, yeah, no, it's fascinating. I mean, I think there's two things I want to say. The one thing is that part of when I talked about my identity shift, I mean, but where I tried to go was in terms of like this space that was created around my work. I was able to move and begin to move into this space of saying, now I have the opportunity to really support. I have this time. I have this space, and I looked at it in a positive way, in saying, in some ways, this was probably, I don't want to, you know, say the universe created it. Is how it happened, but to embrace kind of this space that was created for myself. And so I have begun to really shift it into, now I have the opportunity to really engage. Now I can be kind of the person that I had thought about in terms of supporting the boys in their education right now. So I tried to really shift this and looking at it as an opportunity, create the awareness around this space that now I have. And now it's up to me to kind of, you know, be active and be intentional about it. And the last thing I was going to say, which is really funny. So when Irene came up on the screen, I really, so this is to think about this in such an interesting way. She intentionally changed things for herself, right? But from the outside perspective, I looked at Irene and said, what a beautiful color. This looks so lovely on her. This looks very natural. I mean, you know, like the headband and, you know, yeah, and everything. And I kept thinking, wow, you look wonderful. And this color is so amazing. And yet when you shared, this was you kind of going out on the limb, right? So what does that say about kind of, you know, this outside perspective and our own intention about what we're doing, you know? Because from my perspective, I was like, wow, she looks so beautiful, you know, this color is gorgeous, you know. But it just dawned on me, you know, as Irene was speaking about creating this change in your look, but yet it seems so natural from this person outside, you know? So I don't know what that means, but I wanted to share that because there is this,
Well, it's really thought-provoking because now I have a lot of insights and ideas on how can I be even more creative. And one of the question I'm asking to myself is, well, now that most of my job should be done online, how could the way I work can change? Because I feel much more natural within myself. And this was my intention, to be more myself, because I never dare, for example, I go to, when I worked for Remax, I were like, classical executive, classical manager, and to me, honestly, it's boring. I am much more me like this. And I say, can I be a business coach or an executive coach with my gypsy clothes? That's the question. And how this can inspire CEOs or managers or other kind of people to be more themselves and serve better. Because, the feeling that I received from you, John, is that this was exciting. The way I look and how can impact all of you. And one of the thoughts that came on my mind was, the more I am myself, the more I impact other people positively. The more I break my personal rules and the more authentic I am, the more people are inspired to be the same in their own way.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
very
think that
good
this
point.
is very important.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Unfortunately, time is over. I haven't even shared what I changed this week. And actually, we kind of successfully, with my wife, we decided, actually, we were trying for many, I would say, years to quit, watching TV shows, and we did it finally. So I think, and somehow it coincided with that kind of breaking rules thing. And I think this week, this Tuesday, it's already 4th week when we are not watching even 1 minute of that kind of Netflix and other stuff. I mean, one day we calculated how much time we are spending watching it, and it's I was in a, it's like a night, like a shock, all those dreams about learning languages and kind of doing other things, and I compare it with how many hours I am just staring in the, of course, being tired in the evening, but it's not excuse, I'm staring in that and watching some, one episode after another episode after another episode, and so it's like eventually we realized that we need to do something about it, and tried many times, didn't work, but this time it worked. And that would be kind of, my sharing without too much details. And breaking rules, it could be quite interesting topic for for exploration. And we'll see. Maybe we'll continue our next talk, or maybe we'll make a break and discuss something else and get back to that, because I believe breaking rules and actually getting free and using our awareness, or breaking rules as a exercise of bringing awareness up, it could be quite a powerful topic, and supposed to be. It's one of the, I think, particularly spiritual kind of practice. So, guys, thank you very much for your time. It was always pleasure. So see you next week then. Bye bye,
Yes,
everyone.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.